Hello everyone, welcome back. Today's going to be our last lesson. We're going to be combining everything we know, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and we're going to be making a game. Now, I don't think any other web developer course that's on Udemy actually teaches you how to make a game through JavaScript. All they do is just teach you the basic things and they don't take you through programs. Now I'm going to actually show you how to make a game. It's actually a pretty fun game that gets kind of addicting and it's pretty fun to waste time with. So you might as well have fun with this and show it to your friends and go ahead and get them addicted to it. But overall, the layout is really simple for the game, but it's going to be the JavaScript that's going to be a little bit tricky. There's going to be some items that we're going to have to learn, as well as learning how to incorporate different items together. So let's go ahead and look at how the game is going to look like. So I have the game over here. Now, I know Thanksgiving is over, and I know pumpkins and turkeys are all gone now, and we're heading into New Year, depending on what time you're viewing this course. But you know what the heck, I created a game with pumpkins and turkeys because I love the Thanksgiving so much. So this is the game. So basically what we have here is we have a pumpkin game. So there's 4 pumpkins, and inside each pumpkin is a turkey. Now you would like to hide in one of these pumpkins. So you're going to select which pumpkin you're going to hide in. Now randomly the computer will generate a pumpkin to explode. Now, if you're the pumpkin if you hide in the pumpkin and it explodes, you're going to die. Now, if it explodes in a different pumpkin, you survive and you go on to the next day. So it's basically a survival game. So let's go ahead and run through this game just a little bit, just to see what it looks like. So I'm going to choose to hide in one. As you can see, there's a cool animation right here where we hide, and look at that. The pumpkin exploded was the one that I was in, and I survived for 0 days. So let's go ahead and try this again. I'm going to go hide over in 4. And there we go, 2, I survived, the number for the day went up, and now we're on day 2. Let's keep on going and see how far we can go. Alright, I died, day 2. So it tells me, it alerts me I survived for 1 day. So this is going to be the game that we're going to be making. The HTML and the CSS should be relatively easy. It's that JavaScript that's going to be a little bit tricky to work with. So let's go ahead and get started by downloading the appropriate resources in order to get the required images and the required GIFs in order for us to get started. So if you're not sure how to download the resources for this game, I'm going to show you exactly what to do. So you want to access that lecture that's before this first lesson. It's going to be called Game Resources. So you want to open that up. Now you're going to see a document that says download the game resources in order to get access to the required images. Now what you want to do is you want to go up to your lecture right here and select View Resources. Once you click that, you're going to see 2 files. You can download the ebook of the game resources, which would be just this, but this isn't really required. This has only this inside of it, so I wouldn't recommend downloading it. So the only thing you're going to need is this file, gameresources.zip. So you want to go ahead and download that, and it's going to start downloading over here. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag this to my desktop, so that way I can move it on to the file which we have the Ultimate Web Developer course files in. So let's go ahead and minimize this. Let's minimize this as well. Now let's go ahead and open up that web developer course file that we have. So let me search for web developer. You know what, let's go ahead and put on to our desktop. So let's go ahead and open up our file system, desktop, web developer course, and let's go ahead and drag it. So let's make a new file before we drag anything in here. So we're going to call this, let's call this JavaScript game. Alright, and this is where we want to keep all of the game files inside of here. So we're going to put this in here. And there we go. Now we have a JavaScript game file. Let's go ahead and unzip this file. So let's double click on it, or however you unzip it on your system. Now we have the folder called Game Resources. Now we're going to take everything that's inside the Game Resources file. And I've already included in the index.html and the CSS that's already linked together just to make it easier for you guys, so that we can just focus on making this code. So let's go ahead and copy this, and let's go paste it in the main folder just so we can easily access all of this. Now you have all the resources. You have the GIF for all the types of images we're going to be using, and I also included the HTML and the CSS files. Now let's go ahead and open up the HTML and the CSS, and let's code the HTML first. Let's get that part first done with. So we're going to double click the HTML file. And then we're going to open this up with Komodo. My bad, it opened up in a browser. So Komodo Edit 9. And there we go. Now we opened up the HTML. So we're going to go ahead and get started with coding this. So as you can see, I've already attached the link tag to the document. So I've already linked this CSS file to the CSS file that's found inside your document right here. And I've already added the meta char set just so we can get ahead and get started with this code. Now the basic design of this web page is pretty simple. All it is a table, and all we have is table data and table rows, so it's going to be really simple to set up. So let's go ahead and set that up. So inside our body, what we're going to do, we're going to create a table. So let's go ahead and add the table tag. So bracket table. That is how we start off with our table tag. Now we don't want any borders, so we're just going to close off this table. Alright, now we're going to create the first row. Now inside this first row will only be one TD, and that TD is going to take care of the day. Now this day is going to span four columns. Now this TD is going to span 4 columns. As you can see, I made each pumpkin their own column. So I'm going to make this one 4 columns and have this one centered in CSS. So we want to create a TD, and we want to give this a column span, so col span of 4. Now let's put this in quotation marks. Now before we close off this TD, we see that this day counter over here is inside this TD. That means pretty soon in JavaScript we're going to want this to update dynamically. Whether that's through winning or being able to survive for a day. As you can see, it dynamically updates. So let's go ahead and give this an identifier. That way we can go back and dynamically update the HTML that's inside there. So let's go ahead and do ID will equal day. This will be our day counter. Let's go ahead and close this TD. Now let's go ahead and keep this TD blank. We're going to go through JavaScript and we're going to assign this the words day 1 and day 2 based on our JavaScript program. So right now we'll just keep this blank and we'll go ahead and work on our next table row. So let's get exit out of this table row and create another table row tag, so bracket tr. Now what are we working on? Well, we're going to put these 4 images inside of here and we're going to number them 1, 2, 3, 4, and then lastly we're going to put the where will you hide. So let's work on the pictures first. So we're going to create a TD. Now inside that TD we're going to create an image, so we're going to use the image tag, so bracket img. Now we want to give this an identifier, that way we can change around the pictures depending on whether the person clicks on it or depending where the pumpkin explodes. So let's give this an identifier and we'll call this picture1. We also want to give this an attribute of onClick. Now that, if you remember back when we were learning about the JavaScript functions, we can call a function based on clicking on an HTML tag using the onClick attribute. So we can call this onClick, and the function we want to run is going to be called hideMe. So that will hide the pumpkin based on what the person selects to hide in. And then we're going to go ahead and close off that image tag and then close off that TD. Now we're going to recreate this again for the next 4 pumpkins. So I think it would be easier for us to just copy what we have in here and just keep pasting. So 2, 3, 4. That way we have 4 pictures, but we want to change the attributes that are inside of here. So as you can see, we gave this an attribute of 1 because we want this one to be identified as the pumpkin 1 being exploded. As you can see, we numbered them over here. We also want this one to be different. We want this to be the second pumpkin. So we're going to let this give an attribute of 2. That way the code knows that, hey, we're going to try to pick the 3rd pumpkin we want to hide in. This one will be changed to 3, and this one will change to 4. And let's give all of these a different identifier. So this one was picture 1, this one will be picture 2, this one will be picture 3, and this one will be picture 4. And that is it. We should be good to go. And then let's go ahead and let's add the src. Let's go ahead and add this so that when it's easier for us to style it. So let's go ahead and add the src. Now the src for this would be pumpkin.gif. So let's put this in quotation marks, pumpkin.gif. Let's close that off, and let's go ahead and add this src to all of them. We were going to add it on later on. We were going to add this later on in our JavaScript, but we're going to work on the CSS before the JavaScript, and I want it easier to visualize what this game is going to look like. So let's go ahead and add the src before we do the JavaScript. Alright, now we are finished up with this table row. Let's go ahead and work on the next table row. So bracket tr. Now what do we have inside this next table row? Well, we have each number marking off the number of the pumpkin. So let's go ahead and make 4 TD. So TD, we're going to have this number 1. Let's go ahead and make another one, TD. This one will have the number 2. And next up, TD number 3, and lastly TD number 4, and that will be it for that row. Now lastly, we have another table row, and inside this table row will be a message telling us where will you hide, and sometimes it's going to be dynamically updated. For example, when you click on something, it's going to say good luck, and now it's going to tell you whether you lived or whether you died. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's put a TD, so bracket TD. Now we want this to col span for about 4 cells, so we're going to do a col span, and then we're going to set this equal to 4. And then inside here, we're going to give this an identifier as well, so that way we can dynamically update this later on. So ID will be equal to, let's call this message, because this will be the message we're going to send to people. Alright, now we're going to close off this bracket. Now inside here, we're just going to give this the standard message that we start with, is where will you hide. So let's go ahead and put that in there. Where will you hide? Alright. And that would be about it. So let's go ahead and make sure we close off this table, close off the body. And there we go. Now we finished off the entire HTML for this game. As you can tell, it's not that much HTML. It relies heavily on JavaScript, so be prepared for that. But that is it for the HTML for this game. Now we can go ahead and view what this looks like. It won't look like anything too special, but let's go ahead and see what it looks like. So Google Chrome, preview. And as you can see now, we have the pumpkins, and we have a basic layout of our table. And now we're going to work on CSS, and we're going to be able to style this with a few rules. Actually, it's going to be a really few amount of rules we're going to be doing just to style it and give it some good character to it, and then we'll go ahead and work on the JavaScript. So until the next lesson, see you guys then.